Hello and welcome to the second Backbenchers podcast. My name is Luke Redman and I'm joined as always by James Nolan. James, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And before we get into today's podcast, I just want to express my condolences with the victims of the Manchester bombing, which took place a week ago today. A horrific attack, which we can only condemn in the highest of orders, and it was barbaric in its nature, and plenty of politicians have been reacting to this. This is what Donald Trump had to say in the reaction, in the aftermath of that attack.
I would like to begin by offering my prayers to the people of Manchester in the United Kingdom. I extend my deepest condolences to those so terribly injured in this terrorist attack and to the many killed and the families, so many families of the victims. We stand in absolute solidarity with the people of the United Kingdom. So many young, beautiful, innocent people living and enjoying their lives murdered by evil losers in life. I won't call them monsters because they would like that term. They would think that's a great name. I will call them from now on losers because that's what they are. They're losers. And we'll have more of them. But they're losers. Just remember that.
So that is what Donald Trump had to say in the aftermath of the Manchester bombing attack. Now, James, I just want to ask you, terrorism is a serious problem in this day and age. And a barbaric attack like this really does show us that, these terrorists don't discriminate against whoever they will, really terrorize, I suppose. What is the solution to this problem?
Well, I don't really know what the definite solution is. I don't think the world leaders seem to know either. Otherwise, if they did, the problem wouldn't be still ongoing. They're currently not doing enough as it is, so something needs to change somewhere.
Indeed. So, I suppose when you look at it, are we looking at terrorism from too much of a sort of, it's not this group of people's fault, it's not that group of people's fault? Are we looking at it from a tilted viewpoint? Do we just need to strip back everything we think we know about it and look at it afresh, look at it completely new again?
That could be the solution. You hear the saying a lot of, not all Muslims are terrorists, but some Muslims are terrorists.
Well, more than Christians anyway. I mean, you look, it's Islamic extremists carrying out this attack. You don't hear about Jewish extremists, Christian extremists. Do we need to start looking that maybe we can attribute blame to a certain group, or is that just too far?
Well, the thing is that these terrorists, a lot of them are on the intelligence agency's watch list. So some of these attacks that have taken place, including last week's Manchester attack, could have been avoided because this guy was on the watch list, and the authorities knew about him, and the landlord of his flat noticed suspicious behaviour, but nothing was reported, and this is what happens.
So it's about being more, I suppose, preemptive. Really trying to. Prevention is better than cure.
And well, it's a start. Let's put it that way. It's a start because this, like a few of the other attacks, could have been prevented. If the authorities know that these guys out there have terror links, they should be keeping a close eye on them, not letting the guard down or letting the leash off, or whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah, well, certainly the leash was let off with this guy because he travelled to, I think, Libya, Germany, some say Turkey. So he certainly did a lot of travelling, and if he's on a watch list and that doesn't raise suspicion, then I don't know what will. I suppose we could talk about terrorism a lot, and we could go down a rabbit hole, and probably never come back up. But let's move on, move back to let's call it more traditional parliamentary politics, because an interesting poll came out the other day that showed that among Fine Gael voters, Simon Coveney was more popular than Leo Varadkar. What do you make of that?
It doesn't really surprise me, actually. Coveney seems to be saying a lot of things that people want to hear in the hustings and in his campaign. He caught Varadkar out nicely there last week when Varadkar said he wants to work for the people who get up at 8 a.m. every morning. But Coveney's response was, I want to work for everybody, not just the people who get up at 8 a.m. every morning. So Coveney seems to be appealing a lot more to the common man than Varadkar is in his campaign. So it doesn't really surprise me that this is the outcome of that poll. But at the end of the day, it's down to the Fine Gael members who wins, and I still think Varadkar is in a comfortable lead to take the leadership over.
So you can't see that poll that came out affecting things at all?
It's hard to tell at this stage, but no, I still think Varadkar is going to win. He seems to have a lot of the big names on his side as well. And I think that could, as we know, that could potentially sway the smaller names and the councillors, MEPs, etc. in the party to who they side for.
It almost feels like Fine Gael are whip. Sorry, go on there. Sorry.
The highest profile name supporting Coveney at present happens to be Simon Harris, the Minister for Health. But there's a few higher profile names going with Varadkar, such as Francis Fitzgerald, Pascal Donoghue's gone with Varadkar, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think Richard Bruton, has he backed? I think he might have backed Varadkar as well. The majority of the Fine Gael senior politicians have gone with Varadkar, and it almost feels, this is what I was going to ask you, it feels as if they're almost whipping the vote. It's almost like, vote Varadkar or else you're betraying your party.
How's that feel at the minute? I think this whole campaign's going to cause a divide in the party, because it appears to be getting a bit ugly between Varadkar and Coveney, because Varadkar's having a few sly digs at Coveney how far he's behind in polling. So I think this leadership election, is going to stand through the party more harm than good.
One poll that might disagree with you there is an opinion poll which came out the same day as this leadership poll that suggested Fine Gael are once again the most popular party in this country. I'll just read through the results of that poll. Fine Gael 30%, Fianna Fáil 27%, Sinn Féin 20%. Though, just if for anybody who's interested, Labour were on 5%. Does that poll indicate that actually Fine Gael having all this attention has really boosted their support, and that Micheál Martin needs to start speaking up a bit more?
Well, as you said, since Senator Kenny stepped down and a leadership election was announced, Micheál Martin and Fianna Fáil, they've gone under the radar a little bit, and of course Fine Gael are getting a lot of publicity because, first of all, there's the leadership election. Then, as we brought up last week, Enda Kenny announced he was stepping down. Then Michael Noonan also announced he was stepping down. So a lot of the senior figures are stepping down. I think the reason for the popularity rise could be one of two reasons. Like, people might be seeing that these senior figures are stepping down, so a newer breed are going to take over and it's going to change the way the party's run for good, or else it's just the immediate aftermath of Kenny and to a lesser extent Noonan announcing their resignations that's just seen a surge in popularity. I think it's one of those two reasons. Which one, I'm not wholly sure, but I think they go away to explaining the 3% rise?
Well, it's a 3% difference anyway. I'm not exactly sure how much of a rise it is in that particular poll.
It's up.
That's the crucial point, exactly. You touched on a new breed, but does Coveney really represent a new breed? I mean, he's been around a while. I know Varadkar has too. They're both very experienced politicians, but Varadkar is trying to give off the vibe that he's, I'm I'm for the millennials. I'm the more liberal politician. He being gay himself, being openly gay, and it's almost a meme at this stage. Leo Varadkar, the gay Irish politician, who looks like he could become Taoiseach. Is Leo Varadkar trying to pull in the youth vote? And if so, is it working, do you think?
Well, is there a poll for youth voters? Because it hasn't really been brought up much in the campaign, so I can't really answer it because I don't know enough about it.
You couldn't say it's working, but you could say, would you say that's his ploy in the leadership campaign?
It's hard to know, but a few of his policies, you're saying he's a bit liberal, but a few of his policies seem to be quite right-wing.
Could you be a little bit more specific?
Well, he's very concerned with enterprise and workers' rights and all. He appears to be looking towards aiding business and taking a very capitalist view towards it. So that'll be one of his more right-wing policies. But as you say, the whole sexuality thing is very liberal, potentially leaning to the left sort of thing. So it's hard to know. He probably, the LGBT community, his vote is probably going to be strong there, but young people in general, I can't be fully sure.
Well, certainly I think among older people, Simon Coveney will be the more popular choice, and among younger people, Varadkar. But that goes without saying, young people vote for young politicians generally. The exception to this rule is Bernie Sanders in the US, who's old, and lots of young people voted for him. But let's talk about a touchier sort of issue. Before we move on from the opinion poll, Sinn Féin on 20%. That's up 2 from what they've been polling recently at around 18. They continue to look pretty steady.
Yeah, it's steady improvement. It's not dramatic, but as you say, they're getting there. If an election was called tomorrow, though, it's hard. I think we'd be in the scenario of a hung Dáil. That's what that poll tells me. Because I don't think Fine Gael would run away with it. I don't think Fianna Fáil would run away with it at present. I think that's what Micheál Martin's waiting for.
He's waiting for what exactly? A hung Dáil?
Oh, no, you misinterpreted.
He's waiting for a situation where he can run away with it.
Where he has a clearer margin in the polls.
But has that time come and gone? I mean, I suppose this could nearly be a bigger story. Has Micheál Martin royally messed up here? Has he just sat in his laurels too much, and now the opportunity to be the biggest party is gone? While Enda Kenny was in charge, it seemed like that was the best time to strike while the iron was hot.
I think. Well, we don't know that just yet. We'll know that the answer to that by the time of the next general election, wherever that may be. But I think he's taken a chance here during the lead. Like as you've said before, he didn't want to call it during the whole McCabe scandal.
No, he didn't.
And we're really. I think he's waiting. We're in a position where I think he's waiting to see whoever assumes leadership of Fine Gael, how it will work the polls for them. Because let's assume that Leo Varadkar does become the leader of Fine Gael. It's not guaranteed yet, but as I said, he's comfortable, and I think he will win. Like, is it going to be the case of are the polls going to remain steady, or are they going to go down? They could get more popular, who knows? But I think this is a chance that Micheál Martin's taken, to be honest.
So you think he's waiting to see how the whole leadership thing plays out, and then he's going to decide what he's going to do. So he's going to see, is the new Fine Gael leader popular?
Well, it's looking like it at the minute, because what else is he going to be waiting for?
I suppose it is true. I mean, he had his chance. They had a huge poll lead. I mean, what was it, like 11 points at one stage over Fine Gael?
It's close to that, yeah.
Yeah, I think in one poll where even Sinn Féin bet out Fine Gael when the whole Maurice McCabe scandal really was at its height. Fine Gael were doing terribly in Fianna Fáil, quite brilliantly, but time will tell whether Micheál Martin has missed the chance there, and I suppose he's always been commendable in the sense that he went into the supply and demand agreement with Fine Gael, and I always found that. Sorry.
Confidence and supply.
Confidence and supply, rather. Thank you. It's that whole agreement shows that he is for keeping a stable government together, Micheál Martin, and the fact that he's had multiple opportunities to pull the plug and he hasn't speaks volumes about the man.
I think that could work towards helping his popularity as well, because as you said, if he just pulled a snap election during this whole McCabe scandal or at any other stage, the public might have been pissed off by it. But he's held out, and maybe, who knows, that could stand to him in the long term. But as we keep saying, time will certainly tell.
Yeah, and we touched on Sinn Féin there, but Labour 5%. I mean, it's not getting any easier for them, is it?
It's not getting any easier, and it's certainly not getting any better for them. As I keep saying, Brendan Howlin is appearing a lot in the media lately. Funnily enough, all for different reasons and different aspects, and it's like he's just that small kid in the playground, just looking to be noticed, looking for a bit of attention. He's not really getting it, is he?
No, he's like the like middle-born child in a family. He's just faded into obscurity, and nobody seems to like him either. I wouldn't be surprised if after the next election, or even before that, he was given the boot, because right now Labour are going to be struggling to get their speaking rights at 7 TDs.
Yeah, it's going to be a real struggle. And who's to say? Well, what constituency is Brendan Howlin in again?
He's Wexford.
He's Wexford. Okay, so it's hard to know what the voters think from down there, whether he'd be comfortable or not. He probably will be.
I think what stands in his favour is that Mick Wallace could be really in trouble down there due to all of his recent debacles. But certainly I think, yeah, Brendan Howlin, he didn't exactly top the poll in Wexford.
That's the thing, you don't know what the voters are thinking down there. And I wouldn't mind seeing if we could get a hold of it for the next podcast, seeing a poll of what the voters think down in Wexford.
Yeah, that would be quite interesting. So we've talked about this poll, and it's been quite an interesting poll to see how things are all shaking out. But another very interesting poll is that of abortion, and it's a touchy subject. We're probably going to refrain from giving our personal opinions on it, as people would probably get quite upset by that. But I'm gonna read out a poll here. I suppose, and it's down the bottom where the really key statistics are. Asked if this is an article in the Irish Times, and I'm just going to read it. Asked if abortion should be legalised under any circumstances, on request, basically, 67% of people said no, and 23% of people said yes. So abortion on demand is unpopular, but when asked the question, would people like the 8th Amendment repealed and replaced with something else, support was substantially stronger at 73%. So I suppose what we can take from all this is people want abortion, but they want it in a limited fashion.
Yes, that's fair to assume. And could you read that again? They're saying 73% want it amended or repealed completely.
73% of people want abortion in some circumstances, for example, rape or a fatal fetal abnormality.
Okay. That's very broad spectrum there.
Well, less broad was.
It's not very precise poll, is it?
No, it's not specific, but they do give specifics, so I can read them to you as well.
Yeah.
People said for this, asked if serious risks to the physical health of a woman should be grounds for legal abortion, 82% agreed. For serious risk to mental health of a woman, 72% said yes, abortion should be legal in this case. For rape, 76% said yes. And for a fatal fetal abnormality that is likely to result in the death, before or shortly after birth, 67% said yes. In the case where a fetal abnormality was not likely to result in death, but just disfigurement or a mental condition upon birth, only 47% were in favour of abortion in this circumstances. So they're the specifics, if you will. Give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I could see that, judging by those percentages. Now, I'm not going to give my opinion, as we promised we wouldn't, as it's very touchy. But from those figures, there's obviously, when abnormalities and other consequences such as rape come into play, by and large, the public are in favour of introducing abortion. But I'd like to. There's no figure for just abortion whenever someone decides.
Oh yeah, there is. That was the first figure I read out to you. That is abortion under any circumstances. So, for example, a one night stand goes wrong. 67% said no, we wouldn't want abortion in that circumstance.
Yes. So basically, unless you have good, the pollers have basically said, unless you have good reason to have an abortion, you shouldn't be permitted to do so. That's basically what those polls are telling us.
Well, the polls are lining up with what I thought public sentiment was, and that's, yeah, abortion should be legal in cases. This is not my opinion. Abortion should be legal in cases where, there's fatal fetal abnormalities, rape, and so on. But people don't really. Ireland is becoming more liberal, but we're still conservative in the sense that, we're not quite at the level where we're saying, okay, let's just allow abortion in all cases. People do still have some respect for the Eighth Amendment and some of what it says. The real question here is, how did the government word this referendum? Because there's so many stipulations and so many differences of opinions. What are they actually going to put on that ballot paper?
Yes, that's an interesting one as well. They should. It's very hard to talk about this without giving your own opinion, but I'll try my best. If they're only putting two options on the ballot paper, it's either going to be straight up repeal, yes or no, or maybe they should have a third option: repeal, amend, or leave. That's probably. So, see, it's very hard to tell how they're going to do it. It's a tricky one, but that could be the best option there.
Some people have suggested that there should be two referendums. The first one should be, do you want to repeal the Eighth Amendment, and yes or no. So no would mean nothing changes. Yes would mean, okay, we move on to a second referendum, and in the second referendum, people would say complete repeal with no circumstances. And there would maybe 5 or 6 options on the ballot paper, which would be quite unique.
Maybe it would be unique. One amendment or one vote leading to another.
Well, that's not the unique part. The unique part would be that there would be 5 or 6 different options on one referendum, which is something that would be very strange.
Yes, that would be strange. That could be the most logical way to go about it, but then again, there could be people. It'd be a problem for the first vote, because the first vote would be. Wait, what did you say? The first
would be, do you want to repeal the Eighth Amendment, yes or no? So yes would mean something will change. How drastically would depend on the second referendum, and no would mean nothing would change. It would stay exactly as it is today.
But that would need to be driven home and need to be very specified, emphasised in the vote.
So you're insinuating there could be some confusion?
There could be, because there could be people who might be less informed who, just say, for example, wouldn't want it repealed but want to make amendments or alterations to it, but then they could see repeal, they could assume complete repeal of it, so they might just say, okay, better vote no, because it's better to, because they could be of the view it's better to not change it at all they'll have it completely repealed. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know. I get what you're getting at. I think you're making a very valid point here, because I remember with the second Lisbon Treaty referendum, there was a lot of confusion, because instead of asking, do you want to implement the Lisbon Treaty, yes or no, it was, do you want to reject the Lisbon Treaty? So a lot of people who didn't want the Lisbon Treaty voted no, thinking they were voting no to the treaty, when in fact they were actually voting yes for the treaty, if you understand me.
Oh. Yeah, that's a silly way of going about it, but...
It was I think it was the government trying to. Some people accused the government at the time of trying to be sly and trying to confuse people intentionally.
It's potential. Well, we all know how pally, if you want to say, Ireland is with Europe. So it's a possibility, but
yeah, maybe for another video.
Yes.
But I suppose the point here is, though, is wordings of referendums can be crucial, and the way they're lined out, if the public aren't well informed, then maybe the not well educated could become confused, or even the educated could go in not knowing what the ballot paper is going to say, and then read it and get blindly confused on the spot and vote for something they didn't actually want.
Yes, that's always a possibility, and that's what this repeal the 8, straight up repeal the 8 yes or no could lead to, because as I said, there could be people who don't want to completely repeal. They want slight changes, but they might not know that a yes vote, they might think a yes vote means complete repeal, and they don't want that, so therefore they'll vote no. So they're voting for something they don't really want, like the middle ground as such.
Yeah, no, I understand. Just while we're on the subject of abortion, I'm just reading a headline that's come up here. Eighth Amendment too restrictive, says Leo Varadkar. So he's supporting change.
He is, and what's Coveney's view on the matter?
I think Coveney's been pretty coy on it. I would say that this came up in a debate the other night. Simon Coveney is absolutely against abortion on demand, and so is Varadkar apparently. Varadkar said he was against abortion on demand, but Varadkar's open for change, whereas I think Coveney has been a little bit more subdued on the matter. He's not given his opinion on change. He's been actually, Coveney has criticised the Citizens' Assembly, which recommended abortion on demand. So Coveney is probably leaning towards the pro-life camp, whereas Varadkar is more in the middle, if you will. He's not pro-choice, but he's certainly not pro-life.
Yes.
I just think that's an interesting point to touch on, just while we're talking about both, if you will.
Whoever turns out to be the next Fine Gael leader and Taoiseach, it could be vital. It could be vital to deciding which route the country takes on this matter, whether it's repealed, amended, or left the same. So that's really going to be important, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. They're going to inherit a very interesting situation there, and abortion is probably going to be the biggest topic of Irish politics once the new Fine Gael leader is announced. And I even think it's a subject that could bring down the government if they approach it wrong, if it's done wrong.
Yes, it's a possibility, and it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
I'm going to move away from Irish politics, and we're going to go back to Britain, who have obviously had a very tumultuous week. But interestingly, in polls for the UK election, something quite drastic is happening. It appears as if the Conservatives' lead is falling here, and it's falling quite rapidly. In fact, on the 10th of May, on the 12th of May, one poll had their lead at 20%. Yesterday, YouGov said the lead against Labour was only 7%. What's going on?
Well, he's catching up anyway. That's one thing for certain. It's going to be interesting to see if Theresa May's plan of a landslide victory back when she called the snap election back in April. It's going to be interesting to see if she falls flat on her face.
Like, if she loses, cue the meme, you played yourself. You know, because if she doesn't win a majority, then everybody's going to be saying, well, you know what, who's to blame here, Theresa? You're the one who called this election, nobody else.
But even if she doesn't but even if she does win a majority, if it's only a slender majority, I think people are still going to be asking the exact same question, because she called this election with the intention of a landslide. And maybe now let's compare this situation to a slightly different, but a Micheál Martin situation back at home. Maybe he could be looking at Theresa May and saying, "What if that happened to me?" Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
I did think of that earlier when we were discussing it.
Yeah, well, Micheál Martin could be saying, well, heck no, I'm not going to be the one to trigger an election, because I could ride sky high in the polls initially, and then maybe people will start to swing the other way. Now, my theory behind this is a lot of Labour voters supported Brexit, and they want a hard Brexit, just like Theresa May did. So a lot of them said, I'm going to vote Conservative because I want a hard Brexit more than I want some of Labour's other policies. So a lot of the Labour voters went to the Conservatives. If you follow me, they said, okay, I'm going to vote Conservative, and then a lot of them saw that they were 22% ahead and said, oh well, to heck with it, I'll just vote Labour because that's who I actually want to vote for. The Conservatives are going to win anyway. Would you agree? Would you say that could be the trend going on here?
Well, yes, it could very well be the trend going on here, because it's a silly way to vote, in my opinion. You just vote for who you want to vote for, not because you think somebody else.
Yeah, but some people in Britain feel so strongly about Brexit that they felt that because Labour aren't offering a hard Brexit, they had to vote Conservative, and now they've seen that the Conservatives are so far ahead, or were so far ahead, that they've just come home to Labour.
Yes, it's a possibility. And is any of the campaigning by Jeremy Corbyn helping his case? Could anything he's doing be affecting the poll, or is it just what you said?
He's still facing, in the same sort of way I suppose Donald Trump did, a lot of criticism from the media. Now, I think his criticism is nearly more warranted, because some of the stuff he says sometimes you kind of think, well, did Jeremy Corbyn really just say that? What's he thinking?
Well, people accuse him of being pro-IRA, which is a touchy subject.
Yeah, well, I think, you can't defend saying you're pro-IRA. I mean, even Donald Trump didn't come out saying, oh, I love ISIS or anything ridiculous like that. I know Corbyn hasn't come out and said it, but he's not criticised him. He's refused to condemn the IRA, which at the end of the day, in this day and age, probably isn't acceptable.
No.
Nigel Farage said he thought that the Conservative lead was because loads of UKIP voters had gone to the Conservatives and that they were going to come home. And that when they've seen how big a lead the Conservatives had, they'd come home. He's right and he's wrong. Loads of UKIP voters have gone to the Conservatives, and now if they were to come home, it could put the Conservatives in all sorts of trouble if 5 or 6% of the Conservatives said, oh, do you know what, I'm actually going to go back to UKIP. The Conservatives could be in real trouble. If that 5 or 6% from UKIP come back to UKIP from the Conservatives, then the Conservative lead would come down to 1 or 2 percentage points. Then you're starting to think, could Labour actually win this election?
Well, yes, it's vital that the Conservatives keep hold of those alleged UKIP voters who decided to side with them in the polls, because if not, they could very well be in trouble. So it's going to be a big task over the next 2 weeks or so before the election to keep those voters on their side.
And indeed it will be, and the UKIP, definitely not the UKIP election. The UK election is June the 8th. It's approaching quickly. Theresa May is hoping it can't come soon enough before her poll lead slides any further. That is pretty much all we've got time for today. We've got through quite a lot in quite a short amount of time, actually, which is good, because sometimes we have a tendency to ramble. We'll be back next week with more politics here on the Backbenchers podcast. Thank you very much for listening. It's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from James.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you very much for listening once again. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the video if you did enjoy. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.